What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. What I want to get into in this video is the potential of Woody Johnson staying, not going overseas, and what that means for the New York Jets. So last night we found out that Woody Johnson will not be the ambassador of the UK. That instead will go to Warren A. Stevens. Woody Johnson held the ambassador role from 2016 through 2020, the first time under the Trump administration, and the assumption was by not only Woody Johnson as he began to be asked to be called ambassador again, but just from everyone in the building to everyone in the football world. Again, the assumption was that Woody was going to go back to that role. Well, that's not the case. And Brian Costello did report that, there's still a chance that he can get another position. But what I wanted to do in this video is talk about what it means if he actually stays and how much that actually changes for the New York Jets. Now, listen, I've made my stance pretty clear. I am not the biggest Woody Johnson supporter, but I think we also have to discuss that when things were passed over to Christopher Johnson, things weren't just suddenly beginning to run very smoothly over that time. The Jets hired a head coach essentially because they got a phone call from Peyton Manning, and that skewed their decision to hire Adam Gase. They chose the last iteration of the jerseys from 2019 to 2023 that they wore, that most Jet fans could not stand, and Christopher Johnson was the one who signed off on the Adam Gase, Joe Douglas, and Robert Saleh hires, and all three of those proved to be not the correct decisions, as Adam Gase lasted 2 years, was horrendous. Joe Douglas had 6 years with the Jets, had a very tumultuous time with the New York Jets. That's maybe putting it nicely. And Robert Saleh also, unfortunately, was not very good. So it's not like he can hold any victory and say, I was the one to end the playoff drought, or I hired the GM who got us out of it, or I hired the coach that was awesome. No, the Jets had a losing record every single one of those seasons and have had losing records ever since Woody Johnson has also returned. So Woody Johnson hired the 33rd team, and more specifically Mike Tannenbaum, to kind of spearhead this GM and coaching search. And I sincerely hope that he listens to their words on who they recommend. I don't want to see them go through this whole process of getting the recommendation and going, yeah, thanks, but anyway, we're just going to run it back with Rex Ryan. And oh, by the way, Mike, do you want to get the band back together? You could be the GM. I don't want to see a world where that happens. I want them to take a look at some legitimate candidates, which I think there are at both the GM and head coach, and make proper informed decisions based on the information that's provided to them. I don't want to see a reactionary reaction, which is something that we've gotten multiple times this season from Woody Johnson. Now, anytime I talk about my dislike for Woody Johnson, the pushback that I get is, well, Knicks fans hated James Dolan and now they don't. Why is that? And the point that they're trying to make is that, winning cures all. And while that is mostly true, they're leaving out important context that James Dolan hired basketball people to come in and run the show at head coach and general manager and president and all that. And he has gotten the F out of the way. That's something that I don't know if Woody Johnson is willing to do. It seemed like he did that from 2021 and 2022. And then things kind of started to get messy when Mike LaFleur gets fired. And then the rest is history after that of Woody Johnson potentially getting involved. But is Woody going to have the ability to hire people who can do the football decisions, let them do said football decisions, and not get involved? Because that's the only way that I think the Jets can get out of this. They can't continue this cycle of the owner stepping in and trying to make football decisions. It's a recipe for disaster. Ask Washington under Snyder what that was like. Ask Cowboys fans how they feel about Jerry Jones getting involved in making decisions. Ask, great example, I'm a Mets fan. I'm sure there are also a lot of Jet fans who are also Mets fans. Ask Met fans the difference when Jeff Wilpon was in charge, was the owner and trying to get involved and play GM, versus now with Steve Cohen and David Stearns making decisions. A lot's changed over the last 5 years or so. for the New York Mets, for the New York Knicks, and hell, even to go back a little bit further, another team that I root for, the New York Islanders, they didn't have a stadium situation figured out. They had a fraud of an owner in the 90s, and then they had an owner, God bless him, Charles Wang, who did his best to keep the team here, but also couldn't get out of his own way, nor did he have the money to spend up to the top of the salary cap. Now they have two new owners in Scott Malkin and John Ledecky, and while things haven't gone well the last couple of seasons, they were able to stabilize the franchise and actually made multiple deep playoff runs after being mostly a joke for the first 23 years of my life. So yes, it's possible for owners to change, but I don't know if Woody Johnson is willing to make those changes or not. That's what this offseason is going to come down to. Number one is, who do the Jets hire? And their success will be contingent on who they hire. And on top of that, their success will also be contingent on if their ownership is willing to let the guys that they hire actually make the football decisions. So that's what Woody Johnson needs to do. And I don't know how involved Christopher Johnson would have been if Woody went overseas and then they turn the show over to Christopher. A part of me feels like Christopher would have been the one of the two who's maybe more willing to hire people and get out of the way. But moral of the story, no matter which Johnson is involved, their way out of this is letting football people do football things. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll catch you next time.